Back on my wedding day, I had prepared in advance. My mother-in-law handed me a bank card and said, "Ning Ning, this is your bride price. A full 280,000 yuan. Once you take this money, you'll be a member of our Zhao family. From now on, you must live well with our Zane." Looking at my smug mother-in-law, I smiled and accepted the card, then immediately handed it to my best friend to pay for the wedding car, when the POS machine beeped with the message "insufficient balance on your card." My mother-in-law's face turned bright red. Upon checking, it turned out the card had a zero balance. It was completely empty. Amid the laughter of the full hall of guests, I raised my hand and slapped Zane Zhao. "If you can't afford a wife, stay single for life. Don't go around ruining others." Oh my God. I can't go on living. You little wretch have completely shamed me today. My mother-in-law sat on the floor, crying and shouting. While her relatives and friends all wore expressions of enjoying the spectacle, Zane Zhao quickly grabbed my hand. "Listen to me. My mom just got flustered and took the wrong card by mistake. The bride price money has been ready for a long time. Don't worry." I stopped and waited to see what other drama Zane Zhao and her mother could put on. Zane Zhao pulled her mother-in-law up from the ground. "Mom, look again carefully. Is the card with the betrothal gift money in your bag?" Her mother-in-law looked conflicted, but under Zane Zhao's meaningful gaze, she opened her small bag and pulled out another card. Zane Zhao snatched it and immediately shoved it into my hand. I handed the card to my best friend Xiaomin, and we checked the balance using a POS machine. The electronic voice prompted, "Your card balance is 580,000 yuan. I pretended to be overjoyed and hugged Zane Zhao. "Honey, is this the surprise you prepared for me? I was wrong earlier. I shouldn't have hit you. Please don't be angry, my dear husband." I then grabbed my mother-in-law's hand and said, "Mom, thank you. I was wrong earlier. You didn't just give me an extra 300,000 yuan in bride price. You gave me face. I apologize to you, and from now on, I'll take care of you as if you were my own mother." My mother-in-law's face stiffened, and her eyes turned red. Zane Zhao's expression was also unpleasant, but he still forced a smile. Using his eyes to soothe his mother-in-law, who was on the verge of tears, while signaling to the MC to continue with the wedding ceremony, many of the guests below the stage could see what was going on, and their gazes toward me were filled with sympathy. My best friend waved her hand and swiped 280,000, then handed me the contract to sign, ensuring the money was safely in my pocket. When the remaining 300,000 was handed to me on a card, my mother-in-law tried several times to snatch it. But Zane Zhao held her back firmly. I sneered inwardly, thinking, "This is only the beginning. In my past life, everything you owed me, I will reclaim bit by bit. In my previous life, I foolishly accepted that empty bank card, only to find out there was no money in it when I needed funds for childbirth during the later stages of pregnancy." My mother-in-law and Zane Zhao insisted that there had been 280,000 in the card and accused me of squandering it. At that time, I had lost my job and had to practically beg on my knees just to get a single penny from them. Unwilling to endure the humiliation, I had no choice but to sell my parents' old house at a low price. The person who bought my house was my other close friend Liu Qianqian. Although the house was old, it was in a prime location. In less than a year, it was demolished and replaced with a spacious riverside apartment. Zane Zhao, holding the son I had worked so hard to give birth to, moved in with my mother-in-law and Liu Qianqian, acting intimately with her. It was then that I realized everything had been a calculated scheme. Suffering from severe postpartum depression, I couldn't bear the betrayal and the verbal abuse from those around me. In the end, I jumped from a building and died. Perhaps even heaven couldn't stand by and gave me a chance to start over. The moment I opened my eyes, I found myself back on my wedding day. I worked with my best friend to secure the dowry that was rightfully mine, and unexpectedly ended up with an extra 300,000. At the wedding, I humiliated my mother-in-law and made them pay an additional 300,000. Naturally, she wasn't willing to let it go so easily. The moment we stepped into the house, she demanded I hand over the 300,000. I looked utterly stunned, clutching Zane Zhao as I broke into tears. "What do you take me for? Demanding the dowry back right after the bride enters your home. Since when has that ever been the way of the world?" Zane Zhao looked troubled and started to comfort me. "Ning Ning, didn't we agree on a bride price of 280,000? You really did take more. It's not easy for Mom to save up money over a lifetime. Just give it back to her. I was furious. Zane Zhao, is there even a single word of truth from your family? The first card was empty, and you said it was a mistake. How could the second card also be a mistake? When I said this was the bride price, neither you nor your mother objected, so you want to keep your pride and get the money back too, is that it? Fine, if you want the money back, then make it clear to all our relatives and friends. Don't let people say later that I took 580,000 in bride price from your family, making it seem like I took advantage of you. My mother-in-law grabbed me and tried to snatch my bag. You little bitch. You just want to embarrass our Zane. What good does it do you if he loses face? A clueless woman like you deserves a good lesson. Son, I'll hold her down for you. Give her a good beating. Once she's beaten, she'll behave. If my mother-in-law goes crazy, I'll only go crazier. I scratched her old face with my newly done manicure. In my previous life, even while pregnant, I had to cook and do laundry for her. To keep me from resting, she lied and said she had sprained her ankle, making me massage her feet and support her as she went here and there. Once when she was in a bad mood, she even kicked me in the stomach. That same night, I started bleeding. It wasn't until after the child was born that I found out she had heard from a neighbor that I was carrying a girl, which was why she kicked me, hoping I would miscarry. Even though the baby was saved, she remained angry for a long time. It was only after the child was born and she found out it was a boy that she finally broke into a smile. Back then, I wanted to scratch her, but I was too weak and never got the chance. Now, it's time for me to properly vent my anger. After all, my mother-in-law is getting on in years and is no match for me. In no time. She was screaming and howling. Zane Zhao stepped forward to pull us apart, but when he saw his mother's face covered in blood, he got so angry that he slapped me. I immediately ran out of the house crying, straight to the community square, where I sat sobbing pitifully, tears streaming down my face, a woman in a wedding dress crying outside late at night. Such obvious gossip quickly drew a crowd. The elderly folks who were square dancing stopped and all gathered around. Sweetheart, what's wrong? You just got married, didn't you? What happened to upset you like this? Exactly, if you have anything to tell us. If someone has bullied you, we'll go and seek justice for you. I deliberately revealed the swollen half of my face and, while sobbing, recounted everything that had happened today. My parents passed away early, and I don't have many people on my side, so in my previous life, when Zane Zhao's family bullied me, aside from my close friend Xiaomin, no one stood up for me. After I developed postpartum depression, the neighbors believed my mother-in-law's lies and pointed fingers at me. The gossip became the final straw that broke me. Now I must take the initiative, steer the direction of public opinion, and make it impossible for them to live here. Oh my, this family is really something. Clearly trying to get a daughter-in-law without paying the bride price. Girl, isn't it obvious? The card they gave you later is the family's savings card, not the bride price at all. Their plan backfired, and instead of succeeding, they ended up losing out, and you got hold of it. They definitely won't let it go. I grabbed the kind-hearted aunt's hand and said, Auntie, what should I do? Should I give them the 300,000? But at the wedding, I said it was the bride price, and they didn't object. All the relatives and friends thought my bride price was 580,000. To be honest, since I've already paid for the wedding house worth 1.5 million, I don't really care about this small amount of money, but I don't want to be blamed for nothing. If I had known, I would have returned the money to them on the spot. What, you paid for the wedding house? Then what did their family contribute? I wiped my tears and said, I paid for the wedding house, and I also agreed to let my mother-in-law live with us. That's why they agreed to give 280,000 in bride price. As for other expenses like the wedding photos, gold jewelry, and the banquet, we used half a year's salary from both of us, so it was split equally. However, all the gift money from the wedding guests went to his mother. Since I have few relatives and not many came, I agreed to that. Thinking back now, my brain in my previous life must have been kicked by a donkey. The bride price was 0, which was practically like paying to marry him. And I still dared to quit my job to have a child. How could anyone be so foolish? Everyone looked at me with even more sympathy and started offering advice. You've already accepted the money. There's no reason to give it back. Besides, with the bride price and the wedding expenses, your in-laws spending 580,000 000 isn't really that much. Exactly, if the 580,000 wasn't clarified back then, it's hard to deal with now. And as long as you live peacefully, who holds the money shouldn't matter. It's not about the money, it's about driving the bride out on the wedding day. How can we possibly live peacefully after that? Everyone was chattering and expressing all sorts of opinions. But I didn't really care, I just wanted everyone to understand the real situation. The real excitement is yet to come. Zane Zhao finally managed to calm his mother down and came over, faced with the scolding and criticism from the elderly. Zane Zhao, with a dark expression, promised that the 300,000 was also part of the bride price, and that the family would live together harmoniously without worrying about such trivial matters. I secretly recorded the conversation and only then agreed to go home with him. 3. In the days that followed, my mother-in-law would glare at me with dead fish eyes every day and constantly made things difficult for me, but I was no longer the pushover I had been in my past life. I fought back when I needed to and scolded when necessary. If she wasn't going to let me live in peace, I wasn't going to let her live comfortably either. 2 months later, another drama began, that day. As soon as I pushed the door open, the house was in complete disarray. My sister-in-law had brought her child from the countryside, and there were melon seed shells spit all over the floor. The wedding doll my best friend gave me was thrown on the ground, with 2 footprints stamped on it. "Oh, you're back, sister-in-law, Tong Tong. Call her auntie." The chubby boy, only 6 or 7 years old but weighing at least 120 pounds, just glanced at me and then went back to playing his video game. I simply greeted and walked into the room, and immediately felt a surge of anger. The room looked as if it had been ransacked. Everything was turned upside down. In the drawers, the newly bought lipstick was gone, half of the necklaces and bracelets were missing, and even my unopened underwear had been taken. In my previous life, I could never hold on to anything nice. Whenever my sister-in-law came, it was like a plague of locusts passing through. Even my wedding ring was taken by her. When I confronted her about it, she would push the blame onto my mother-in-law, who would then say that as the daughter-in-law of the Zhao family, my things were her son's things, and her son's things were under her control. Her catchphrase is, "Your sister-in-law is having a hard time, what's wrong with you and your wife helping out a bit?" If I were to make a fuss again, they would exaggerate the situation and post it in the family group chat. Their relatives naturally wouldn't take my side. Not only would I lose my belongings and gain nothing, but I would also be labeled as petty and unreasonable. After being reborn, to guard against this day, I stored all my valuable items at my best friend's house. Who would have thought she would even take these things that aren't worth much? I stood at the door and loudly demanded, "Who entered my room? Who took my things?" The mother-in-law immediately ran out from the kitchen. "What do you mean your things? My son has a share in everything you have. Can't I give them to my daughter?" I laughed. "Of course you can. Why wouldn't that be possible? But you shouldn't just give away my things. Zane Zhao's things should also be given to your brother-in-law to use. How can you favor one over the other?" I went into the room and brought out the imported watch Zane Zhao used to show off, along with the fine cigarettes and alcohol we had saved for gifting. "Sister, take all of these with you. I'm giving them all to you. Let your husband wear this watch, and have him give the cigarettes and alcohol to his superiors to build connections. Who knows, he might even get promoted to team leader." My sister-in-law's eyes immediately lit up, and she was about to step forward to take it. But my mother-in-law stopped her with a sharp shout, "These can't be touched. These all belong to my son. How dare you give them away so casually? You little wretch, are you itching for a beating? Just wait until Zane comes back and teaches you a lesson." So she knows personal items shouldn't be given away casually. It's just that my things can be given away freely, but her sons cannot. How hypocritical. But how could I let her have her way? Mom, Zane, and I are husband and wife. I can make decisions for Zane, and besides, my sister and brother-in-law aren't outsiders. It's rare for them to visit. Why can't I give them something as a gift? My sister-in-law knew that the imported watch cost 50,000, and the cigarettes and alcohol were at least over 10,000. Since I had already offered to give them, she, being someone who never passes up a chance to take advantage, was more than willing to accept. She chimed in, "Sis, if she wants to give it, just let her." Brother-in-law could really use some good liquor to help with networking. The 3 of us each argued our own points and ended up pushing and shoving. In the end, the bottle of alcohol fell and shattered on the floor, the imported watch accidentally dropped into the spilled liquor, and the cigarette box was crushed out of shape. Just then, the sound of the door opening echoed, and Zane Zhao happened to come home. When he saw this scene, he completely lost it. He asked what was going on. And I said my mother-in-law had given my things to my sister-in-law. My mother-in-law said it was only right for us to help out my sister-in-law's family. I said I agreed with my mother-in-law, but the things I had were worth less than 200 yuan altogether, which really wasn't enough to give as a proper gift. So I thought of giving my sister-in-law something nicer, but then my mother-in-law didn't want to help her family anymore. My sister-in-law complained that my mother-in-law was unwilling to give her the good stuff and was treating her like a beggar. My mother-in-law scolded me, calling me a wasteful woman who had ruined all the good things. Zane Zhao was extremely frustrated, saying I was wrong to touch his things without his permission. I explained that his mother had done the same and that she was the one who wanted to help his sister. He then said his mother was in the wrong. His mother sat on the floor and started crying, saying her son and daughter-in-law were unfilial and that this was pushing her toward death. His older sister only added to the chaos by picking up that imported watch and saying she could still wear it after cleaning it. Zane Zhao was so angry that he threw his sister and nephew out. I felt incredibly relieved and went back to my room to pack my things, leaving his mother for Zane Zhao to comfort. When I woke up after a nap, my elder sister-in-law was sitting in the living room again, and the three of them had become harmonious and happy once more. I went to the kitchen and looked around. Great, they had all finished their meal and hadn't left any food for me, so I picked up my phone and ordered a luxurious takeout. Just as I was about to return to my room, Zane Zhao pressed me down onto the sofa to sit. Ning Ning, there's something I'd like to discuss with you. My elder sister-in-law immediately chimed in. Sister-in-law, you're willing to help me out, aren't you? With that intention of yours, this matter will be much easier to handle. Your nephew is about to start elementary school, and the education in the countryside isn't good. Do you think you could help transfer his household registration to your place so he can attend school in the city? In my previous life, I couldn't resist their family's pressure and allowed my nephew to transfer his household registration and move in. That's when the chaotic days began. Tong Tong was a spoiled brat. He hit classmates, insulted teachers, and even stole. I was left to clean up every mess, not only having to apologize but also being blamed by my sister-in-law for corrupting her precious son. I put in all the effort but got no appreciation. Only complaints. In this life, I'm not going to be the scapegoat again. Sis, this matter is easy to discuss, but I can't keep helping indefinitely. Before we talk about this, could we settle the previous debt first? The 150,000 I lent you for building the house back in our hometown. I wonder if you could return that to me now. In my previous life, I must have had a hole in my head. Zane Zhao brought his sister to me, crying about how their house was leaking and uninhabitable, asking to borrow 150,000 and promising to repay it within a year. My relationship with Zane Zhao was stable, and we were already discussing marriage, thinking we would soon be family. I transferred the money without even having her write an IOU. After that, the money just vanished. After asking about it a few times, my sister-in-law outright denied the debt. When I approached Zane Zhao, he simply said he forgot. Just like that, 5 years of hard-earned savings from my side job were swindled away. Now that the money has just reached its 1-year maturity, it's only right for me to ask my sister-in-law to repay it. My sister-in-law's face fell, and she turned her eyes toward Zane Zhao. Zane Zhao chimed in. Ning Ning, your sister doesn't have any spare cash right now, and besides, you're not short on money. Why not let her postpone the repayment for a while? My mother-in-law looked furious. You just took 580,000 from me, and you're still thinking about asking for money. Are you obsessed with money? I rolled my eyes at my mother-in-law. The 580,000 is the betrothal money. Zane Zhao said that himself. Besides, how can betrothal money be the same as money lent out? If it's my money, why can't I ask for it back? Sis, if we're talking about helping you out, I've certainly done my part. When you said you needed money to build a house, I transferred 150,000 to you that very day. When you said you needed support, I gave you Zane Zhao's imported watch and all the fine liquor and cigarettes. Now you want the school district rights to my house too. Asking me to help with everything is a bit much. Don't you think? My sister-in-law muttered. that money wasn't transferred to me, and then turned her head away. I was taken aback. Could it be that she wasn't the one who borrowed the money? At that time, I didn't have my sister-in-law's bank account number, so I transferred the money to Zane Zhao. This was the main reason why the money couldn't be recovered in my previous life. After all, even if I took legal action, it would only prove that I gave the money to Zane Zhao. But by then he was already my husband, and the matter became a family dispute. I turned my gaze to Zane Zhao, suppressing my anger as I asked him, if the money wasn't borrowed by your sister, then where did you spend it? Zane Zhao shot a glare at his sister and stammered, at that time. My friend said the stock market was doing well and asked me to invest with him to make some money. I thought I'd transfer the money to my sister after making a profit, but who knew the stock market would keep falling after that? I was so angry that my chest hurt. This was something I hadn't anticipated. Pointing at Zane Zhao and his sister, I cried out, listen to me, you too, that 150,000 yuan was my mother's dowry for me. If you don't return it, then don't even think about discussing anything with me. I slammed the door and stormed out, after thinking for a moment. I went back to the center of the square, sat down, and started crying. Soon, a group of elderly men and women gathered around me. I told them about what happened with my sister-in-law today. Everyone started cursing the Zhao family, and a kind-hearted elderly woman even analyzed the situation for me, insisting that I must not agree to let my nephew come here to study. Sweetheart, you don't have children of your own, so you don't know how troublesome it is to raise a child. Spending money is the least of it. The real issue is the endless worries. Exactly. Boys are mischievous. If he gets hurt, who will be held responsible? And if the child doesn't do well in school, won't your sister-in-law blame you? The key issue is that this family is just too overbearing. Not only does the mother-in-law live in your marital home, but she also wants to bring your nephew over. Your husband's family really doesn't play fair. I kept nodding as I listened to their discussion. In my previous life, Tong Tong bullied their grandchildren, and they never hesitated to give me dirty looks or even throw trash at my door. But in this life, I absolutely won't let Tong Tong come to live here. But my refusal was useless. After my sister-in-law left, Tong Tong stayed. Furious, I kicked Zane Zhao out of the room and made him sleep in the guest bedroom with his little nephew. Then, I immediately dug out our household register, packed up important documents and clothes, and got ready to leave. The next day, I took a day off and hired a delivery service to buy several pinhole cameras. While no one was home, I placed them in hidden corners, then locked the door and left. On the way to my best friend's house, I sent a message to Zane Zhao, telling him that unless Tong Tong left, I wouldn't be coming back. It wasn't that I was afraid of them, but I wanted to relax a little. Every day after marriage felt like a battle, and it was exhausting. Besides, I had no intention of being their workhorse like in my previous life. Moreover, if I didn't leave, how could Zane Zhao act freely? How could I gather enough evidence for the divorce? Soon, Zane Zhao called me, questioning why I couldn't tolerate a child. I asked him in return, who would take care of Tong Tong's daily needs like eating, drinking, and using the bathroom, who would handle school drop-offs, pickups, and homework assistance, and if he got sick or injured, who would be responsible? The key point is, it's my house, and I don't want him to live here. It's as simple as that. We had the most intense argument since we've known each other. He accused me of not considering myself a part of the Zhao family and not treating him as family. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so calculative. I scolded him, saying that it wasn't enough for him alone to live off me. Now he wanted to bring his whole family to do the same. The way he's going about it is just too disgraceful. If he claims he isn't living off me, fine, then pay back the 150,000 yuan he owes me. In the evening, I checked on the situation at home through the surveillance camera. Tong Tong was hungry one moment, then wanted to play with toys the next, throwing things around. My mother-in-law followed behind, cleaning up after her, and her back was already unbearably sore after just one day. When Zane Zhao returned home, he had to take care of both the elderly and the child. And he was also filled with frustration. After putting Tong Tong back in her room, I overheard a conversation between my mother-in-law and my husband. Mother-in-law, Zane, you and Ningning have been married for so long. Why hasn't she gotten pregnant yet? Zane Zhao, Mom, having a child isn't something that can just happen on demand. Mother-in-law, is it because the holes in those condoms are too small? Should I poke them again? Zane Zhao, she's not even here now. So poking them however many times won't make a difference. Maybe we should just send Tong Tong back. Mother-in-law, your brother-in-law promised a bride price of 380,000, with the agreement that his son would attend primary school in the city with you, if we send him back now. What about the bride price money? Zane Zhao irritably rubbed his temples and finally decided to coax me back tomorrow night to play the role of their housemaid. FMPH, they're still hoping to get me pregnant. Thinking they can control me through a child. Luckily, I've been taking medication afterward, and only then did I realize why my sister-in-law so confidently sent her son over. Both my mother-in-law and Zane Zhao are the type to avoid trouble. Why would they willingly take in a rowdy nephew? So it was all pre-arranged. In the countryside, the typical bride price ranges from 80,000 to 180,000. My brother-in-law's family favors sons over daughters. They only held the wedding after my sister-in-law gave birth to a boy. The fact that they offered as much as 380,000 was clearly because they had high hopes for their son's future. The next day, the first call I received was from Liu Qianqian. Ningning. Did you have a disagreement with Brother Zhao? He asked me about your whereabouts. Are you at Xiaomin's place? When a couple lives together, they need to be more tolerant of each other. You're still in the of your marriage, so you should be considerate of Brother Zhao's difficulties and help him share more of the burden. Hearing this voice made my eyes sting and my heart ache. Liu Qianqian, are you sure you're my best friend? I thought you were Zane Zhao's buddy. You didn't even ask what grievances I've suffered before telling me to be considerate of him. Can you please be considerate of me first? Liu Qianqian wanted to say more, but I decisively hung up the phone. In my previous life, I always considered her my best friend, yet she stole my husband when I was suffering from postpartum depression. After being reborn, I've been keeping my distance from her, not wanting any further involvement. In the evening, Zane Zhao came knocking at my best friend's door. Without waiting for me to speak, my best friend unleashed a torrent of scolding at Zane Zhao, listing all the unethical things he had done. In the end, Zane Zhao was no match for her verbal assault and fled in defeat. It was truly satisfying. We opened a bottle of champagne to celebrate and even cast the surveillance footage onto the TV, while munching on chips and sipping champagne. We were all set to enjoy the sight of Zane Zhao's furious reaction. But when the door opened, it wasn't just Zane Zhao who walked in. Liu Qianqian was with him. My mother-in-law was very familiar with Liu Qianqian. She carefully helped Liu Qianqian sit down on the sofa and then poured her a cup of warm water. Good child, how have you been lately? Are you feeling unwell anywhere? You must take good care of your health. Don't overwork yourself. Make sure to eat nutritious food so you can give me a healthy, chubby grandson. I was so shocked that I spat out the wine in my mouth. The child Liu Qianqian is carrying belongs to Zane Zhao, but hasn't Liu Qianqian always had a boyfriend? I always thought that in my previous life, Liu Qianqian got together with Zane Zhao only after I became depressed. It turns out that her illegitimate child is Zane Zhao's, and they were already together before I got married. My best friend was also shocked. I always found it strange that Liu Qianqian kept speaking up for Zane Zhao. But I never expected her to do something like this. It's really shocking. Ningning, people always say to guard against fire, theft, and best friends, but please believe me, I'm not like Liu Qianqian. I've always been on your side. My sudden surge of anger vanished in an instant, with red-rimmed eyes. I shot my best friend a glare and said, "Don't worry, I know you're the firecracker type, not the seductress kind." My best friend pulled me into a hug. If you want to cry, then cry. If you want to curse, I'll curse with you. If you want to catch them in the act, I'll go with you too. I patted her arm and replied, I'm not going to shed a single tear over that scumbag and that homewrecker, and there's no need to catch them in the act. With today's technology, we don't need to go through all that trouble. While we were sharing this sisterly bond, on the other side, they were already discussing how to deal with me. Liu Qianqian glanced at the mess in the living room and advised her mother-in-law, Auntie, no offense, but you're being too hasty. Ningning was already upset about what happened at the wedding, and now you brought the child over so quickly. No wonder she ran away. If you ask me, it would be better to send the child back first. Wait until she's pregnant or until she's been trained to be obedient before bringing the child over again. Zane Zhao held Liu Qianqian, looking impatient. Who knows how long it will take for her to get pregnant? Getting her to obey isn't very likely either. We need to think of other solutions. I think we should first send Tong Tong away. then bring the person back and deal with her, just as we discussed earlier. We can add some undetectable drugs to her food that will drive her insane. After a while, when she goes mad, we can either send her to a mental hospital or let her die. That way, we can eliminate the problem for good. Liu Qianqian took a small medicine bottle out of her pocket, and Zhang Zhao took it and examined it. The mother-in-law said with some concern, "Won't this be discovered?" Liu Qianqian replied triumphantly, "This is a psychiatric medication, not poison. It will only make her feel drowsy every day. She'll just think she's not sleeping well, but if she takes it long-term, she'll develop suicidal tendencies. Find a way to take her to the hospital. And I'll arrange for her to get a depression diagnosis. I guarantee no one will find out." Zhang Zhao touched Liu Qianqian's belly. By then, her 2 apartments, the over 300,000 yuan in betrothal gifts, and that car will all belong to our son. Liu Qianqian punched Zhang Zhao lightly, seemingly reluctant. "If you hadn't lost 800,000 yuan playing the stock market, I wouldn't have introduced Ningning to you." Sigh, I still feel guilty towards her. "But isn't the old apartment in Ningning's hands about to be demolished? Can we find a way to make her sell it to me? Who knows when she'll die? But once this child is born, we need a stable place to live." Zhang Zhao frowned. With all that money in her hands, it's going to be difficult to convince her to sell the apartment. The 3 of them thought hard for a long time but couldn't come up with any good ideas. After that, they happily had a meal together. And Liu Qianqian even stayed over that day. My best friend patted her chest in horror, pulling me and urging me to get a divorce quickly. She said if I stayed in this family any longer, I would lose my life. I smiled bitterly and thought to myself, it's not that I'm about to lose my life. I've already lost one. I never expected that my death in my previous life was because of this. Now, there's no way I'm going to let this family off easily. I held my best friend's hand and said, "Zhang Zhao works at the Municipal Planning Bureau and must have heard some inside information. My old apartment is likely going to be demolished soon. Why don't you buy one nearby? Even if you don't make a profit after the demolition, you could at least trade up to a bigger place." My best friend looked troubled and replied, "You know my financial situation. I've only managed to save 200,000 over the years. That's barely enough to buy a bathroom." I took out my phone and transferred 300,000 to her. "Money is no problem. That family of mine is always worried I have too much cash with nowhere to spend. Just borrow a bit more to buy the apartment, and we can be neighbors in the future." My best friend was so happy she was jumping up and down, and I was also very happy. Having been reborn, I must treat those who are good to me even better. Similarly, I won't let go of anyone who has harmed me. 5. Within 2 days, my nephew was sent back to the countryside, of course. My brother-in-law was very dissatisfied and caused a scene at home. He even made a harsh threat. If my mother-in-law couldn't keep her promise to let his son study in the city, then she should return the 200,000 yuan bride price. Otherwise, he would make sure my sister-in-law had a hard time. Hearing him say that put my mind at ease. It seems I won't even need to step in. My sister-in-law's days ahead won't be easy. Zhang Zhao picked me up and even thoughtfully prepared a bedtime milk for me in the evening. After 2 days of good living, I told him that I had followed his lead in stock trading and lost all of the 300,000 yuan. To make him believe me, I even showed him some doctored screenshots. My mother-in-law went into a rage, smashing and breaking things at home, cursing me for squandering the family fortune, and even wanting Zhang Zhao to beat me up. Zhang Zhao, on the other hand, appeared very tolerant. Although his expression was far from pleasant, he still comforted me thoughtfully, saying that money could be earned again. He promised to work hard and strive to make money so that I could live a good life. If it weren't for the daily milk, he would truly be a considerate, gentle, and devoted man. And when I found out that they had planned to have my mother-in-law fake a fall and then persuade me to sell the house under the pretext of needing a large sum of medical expenses, I decided to add a little something extra to their scheme. 6. That day while I was at work, I received a call from Zhang Zhao. He anxiously told me that my mother-in-law had accidentally fallen, was seriously injured, and was being rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. I hurried to the hospital, and as the attending physician, Liu Qianqian happened to be coming out of the operating room, frowning with a troubled expression. She told both Zane Zhao and me that my mother-in-law had a fractured lumbar spine and would most likely be unable to walk after the surgery. Of course, we could try taking her to a major city for treatment, along with rehabilitation, and there would still be a 50% chance she could stand up again. However, it would require a large sum of money, estimated to be no less than 500,000. Zane Zhao wept bitterly, immediately stating that he would pay any amount to ensure his mother-in-law could stand again, and then begged me to come up with a solution, almost outright suggesting I sell the house. I pretended to be deeply distressed as well, and with tears in my eyes, I said, "Such a serious thing has happened to mother-in-law. Have you informed sister and brother-in-law? They must be made aware of this. We should all discuss how to handle it together," ignoring Zane Zhao's stunned expression. I immediately called my sister-in-law and then urged Zane Zhao to go pay the fees, leaving him no time to play the victim. Liu Qianqian hesitated several times, wanting to speak but holding back. I stopped her and asked a series of questions, getting a detailed account of mother-in-law's condition. Based on what she described, it didn't seem like she was lying when she said mother-in-law might be paralyzed. Come to think of it, how could a little bit of oil in the kitchen make someone fall so hard? It would take a big glob of transparent dish soap to achieve that. After the mother-in-law was pushed into the ICU, Liu Qianqian said something to Zane Zhao, and his face immediately turned pale. He sat there, holding his head and crying, finally portraying the emotion of grief to the fullest, far more genuine than his earlier fake tears. When the elder sister-in-law arrived and learned about the mother-in-law's condition, she blamed both me and Zane Zhao, accusing us of not taking good care of her mother. Therefore, she insisted that the medical expenses and subsequent care should be our responsibility. Zane Zhao also got angry, claiming that his mother's fall was an accident and couldn't be blamed on him. He insisted that the medical expenses and follow-up care should be split equally between the two of them. I stood aside, watching through the glass window as my mother-in-law lay there with tubes inserted all over her body. Her children were already quarreling outside without even glancing at her, who truly had her in their hearts, and rightly so. No filial child would ever joke about an elderly person's health. Only the son she had spoiled could be so heartless. And what was the result? A fake fall turned into a real one, a sprain turned into paralysis. Who is to blame for this, in the end? After tearing at each other, the siblings came before me once again. Zane Zhao held my hand and said, "Ning Ning, with Mom in this condition, we really need to make sure she gets proper treatment. None of us have any money on hand, and as you can see, none of us can come up with 500,000. How about you sell that old house first to pay for Mom's treatment? Later, I promise I'll buy you a big house, and it'll be in your name only." So he's already starting to make empty promises. So, for his mom's treatment, I'm supposed to foot the entire bill. Is that it? I looked troubled and said, "Actually, there are other ways besides selling the house. For example, banks now offer many types of loans with low interest rates and repayment periods ranging from 3 to 10 years. If each of us takes out a small loan, we can solve the problem. Why do we have to touch that house?" My sister-in-law blurted out, "But loans have to be repaid." I sneered, "So, does that mean I don't have to pay back my money?" Zane Zhao anxiously pulled his sister-in-law aside and pleaded with me in a humble tone, "Ning Ning, don't listen to her. She spoke without thinking. The amount of 500,000 is too large, and one of us will have to quit our job to take care of Mom. The next year or two will definitely be very difficult. How could we possibly pay off so much debt? Selling the house is the safest option. Besides, that old house is small and run down. There's no use keeping it. It's better to just sell it." I take a step back. "Let me make it clear, I'm not resigning. She's your mother, so it's your duty to be filial. Also, I was born and raised in that old house. It holds memories left by my parents. It's not just some old and shabby place you call it. Either take out a loan or find another way to raise the money. In any case, don't even think about targeting my house." Zane Zhao could no longer contain his anger. "Ning Ning, how can you be so heartless? She's your mother-in-law. Are you really going to just watch her lie in bed, unable to stand up for the rest of her life? That house of yours will be sold whether you agree or not. If anything happens to my mom, I won't let you off the hook." I got angry too. I said, "My house, I'm not selling it. Don't even think about coveting my house. If you dare to pressure me, we'll get a divorce." I turned around and left. The timing was about right now. And I needed to withdraw in time. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I went to my best friend's place. There was no other way. I was afraid of dying, afraid that Zane Zhao might resort to violence if pushed too far. In the evening, an elderly neighbor lady tagged me in the group chat. Ning Ning, we ran into your sister-in-law tonight. As soon as she showed up, she started bad-mouthing you. So we scolded her until she left. We know you. You're such a gentle soul. Always being bullied by your in-laws like a soft bun. How could you possibly do something like pushing your mother-in-law down and cursing her to die? It's obvious your sister-in-law was just making things up to ruin your reputation. I understood that while this neighbor was tipping me off, she was also looking for some gossip, so I told her everything. How my mother-in-law accidentally fell in the kitchen, and how my husband and his sister, instead of trying to borrow money or take out a loan for her medical treatment, pressured me to sell the property I owned before marriage. I also said that my husband might use violence to force me to sell the house, which scared me so much that I didn't even dare to go home. Now I can only stay at a friend's place. I have no family to back me up, and I don't know what to do in the future. The elderly lady was very righteous and said she would keep an eye on the situation at home for me, and would inform me promptly if there was any news. 7. After my mother-in-law was discharged from the ICU, I went to visit her with some nutritional supplements, accompanied by my close friend. Zane Zhao was unshaven, with puffy eyes, and had long lost his handsome and capable appearance. I don't know what they discussed again, but when they saw me coming, they all looked furious, as if I had harmed my mother-in-law. Zane Zhao shouted hoarsely, "How dare you show your face? If Mom can't stand up, it will all be your responsibility." My sister-in-law rushed forward to grab me. "You could have saved Mom. What would it have mattered if you sold that lousy house?" My mother-in-law wailed, "What sin have I committed to have such an unfilial daughter-in-law brought into our Zhao family?" Liu Qianqian also advised me from the side, "Ning Ning, you are a family. Just sell a house to treat your mother-in-law's illness. Consider it as fulfilling your husband's filial duty." My best friend tugged at my hand. I turned around and saw a phone stand. They were live streaming. I took a glance at the phone and saw there were only a little over 100 viewers. They were so stingy. If they wanted to expose me online, they could at least spend some money to boost the traffic. In comparison, I appear much calmer. What era is this now? Not all netizens are fools. They won't just take your word for it. You need evidence to back up your claims. I don't know what you've been telling the netizens, but Mom's injury was an accident. We have surveillance at home, and I'll pull the footage to show you. Also, the house is my premarital property. If I don't want to sell it, no one can force me. Zane Zhao, since we've already reached this point, there's no point in continuing. Let's get a divorce. Surveillance. Zane Zhao excitedly grabbed my shoulders. How could there be surveillance at home? When did you install cameras? I broke free from his grasp, glanced at my mother-in-law, and said coldly, "My things keep disappearing. I had to install cameras to see what's going on." Zane Zhao immediately ended the live stream, nervously grabbing my hand. "Ning Ning, Mom fell by accident. You don't need to investigate. I won't pressure you to sell the house anymore. We'll figure out another way." The sudden change in attitude was too obvious. I deliberately looked skeptical, then pushed Zane Zhao aside and walked out. He tried to grab me again, but my best friend blocked him. My best friend and I got into the car and couldn't help but laugh at the same time. I started the car and said, "Let's go back. It's time to set the trap." 8. Zane Zhao kept calling, but I blocked all his calls. Liu Qianqian was also contacting our friends, constantly asking about my whereabouts, but to no avail. That's because my best friend and I didn't go home. Instead, we took annual leave from work and started a road trip. Before leaving, I gave the police the video of my husband trying to harm me, and led them to find the bottle of medicine in my mother-in-law's room. The surveillance footage captured the process of drugging, and drug residue was also detected in the milk bottle I had drunk from. I sent the videos of Zane Zhao and Liu Qianqian's affair, their secret plotting, her abuse of her position to fabricate my mother-in-law's condition, exaggerating minor injuries as severe ones, and their scheme to trick me into selling the house to her, to the leadership of her hospital. I also hired a lawyer specifically to handle my case and submitted a divorce application. The lawyer said that my evidence is comprehensive and valid, and the case is almost without difficulty, so he assured me to leave it to him and go enjoy myself without worry. After leaving behind those troublesome people and matters, my best friend and I had a great time, at least releasing all the pent-up emotions from the past few months. After returning, both Zane Zhao and Liu Qianqian were arrested. My sister-in-law was busy taking care of her paralyzed mother-in-law and had no energy to bother me. I went back home, packed up my husband and mother-in-law's clothes and mailed them to my sister-in-law's house, took all my belongings, and then listed the house for sale at 90% of the market price, with the only requirement being a full payment. As a result, I found a buyer on the third day. After receiving the money, I officially moved in with my best friend. The lawyer called me and said Zane Zhao wanted to see me. I really wanted to see how miserable he looked, so I agreed. The detained Zane Zhao seemed to have aged 10 years. When he saw me, he broke down in tears, begging for my forgiveness. He said he knew he was wrong, that he only wanted me to sell the house to help him pay off his debts and never actually intended to harm me. He asked me to write a letter of forgiveness and even suggested starting over with me. To be honest, I was shocked. Where did he get the idea that I couldn't live without him? Since I was the one who put him in here, why would I ever get back together with him? Zane Zhao, maybe you should go get your head checked. Do you think I'm a garbage dump? Meeting you was the worst luck of my life. Stay away from me, you scumbag, and don't think I don't know that you and Liu Qianqian are the real couple. It's because you lost money playing the stock market and saw that I was an orphan, so you wanted to take advantage of my family's legacy. That's why you sweet-talked your way to me. You two were aiming to kill me, get my property, and then fly off together. This marriage was full of schemes. If it weren't for that empty betrothal gift card that made me more cautious, your plan might have succeeded. Now, your retribution has come. Oh, and Liu Qianqian has been arrested too. I heard she's seeking bail on the grounds of pregnancy, but you're the main culprit in the murder, and she's an accomplice. That outcome won't change. You can be a pair of star-crossed lovers in prison. Zane Zhao was so agitated that he knelt down, begging me to let them off, but I had already seen his fate. Staying any longer wouldn't add to my satisfaction, so I turned and left. After coming out, Liu Qianqian also came to my door with a big belly, pleading bitterly, begging me to let her off for the sake of our past relationship. I sneered. Past relationship? What relationship? The one where you schemed against me? Or the one where you and my husband tried to kill me? Can you tell me exactly what I did to offend you so much that you wanted my life? I don't understand. You have hands and feet. And your job isn't bad. Why not find a good man and live a peaceful, honest life? Why resort to harming others? And now that your plan to harm others has backfired on yourself, you come begging for forgiveness. Don't you think it's all too late? Liu Qianqian didn't give me an answer. Perhaps she was just after money and had no real reason at all. Fortunately, I still have a good best friend who stands up for me when I'm bullied, finds ways to cheer me up every day, and encourages me that everything will get better. 9. Just as we had hoped, when all the bad things pass, everything will get better. 6 months later, everything was settled. Zane Zhao was sentenced to 5 years, and Liu Qianqian to 3 years, with a 1-year reprieve. The mother-in-law had no money for medical treatment and became bedridden, which allowed her to escape legal punishment. The sister-in-law took the mother-in-law back to her parents' home, but her husband resented the extra 200,000 yuan in bride price and was unwilling to care for a paralyzed elderly person. He constantly abused the sister-in-law, making life extremely difficult for both mother and daughter. Tong Tong started attending the local elementary school in town, but due to his extreme mischievousness, he was ostracized by his classmates and disliked by his teachers. At such a young age, he frequently skipped school. The demolition notice for the old house has been issued. Since a convention center is planned to be built here, there is no option for relocation back to the original site. Instead, compensation funds or riverside apartments are offered as alternatives. My best friend and I chose a large Riverview apartment and became neighbors, living one above the other. After that, we went on blind dates together and soon found suitable partners, entering the palace of marriage one after the other. My husband is a science guy. Although he's not as handsome as Zane Zhao or as eloquent, he gives me a sense of reliability and always puts me first at home, making me feel secure. So, in the 2nd year of our marriage, we welcomed an 8-pound baby boy. The next time I heard news about the Zhao family was already 8 years later. While taking my son to school, I ran into a distant cousin of Zane Zhao, and she stopped me to chat for a bit. after taking care of her mother-in-law for just a year. My sister-in-law became extremely irritable and completely lost her patience. Not only did her husband fail to help her, but he also constantly scolded her, demanding that she hand over the 200,000 yuan bride price and urging her to properly discipline their son who was skipping school. With too many burdens weighing on her, she broke down. She abandoned her mother-in-law and attempted to hang herself. But fortunately, she was saved, after staying in the hospital for 5 days and returning home. I realized that my mother-in-law had been starving for 5 days. In her search for food, she fell to the ground and couldn't get up, ultimately passing away just like that. The burden on my elder sister-in-law was lifted, but her joy didn't last long. Her son ended up in a juvenile detention center after getting into a fight with some troublemakers and killing someone. He won't be released for at least 5 or 6 years. My brother-in-law blamed my elder sister-in-law, calling her a jinx who brought chaos to their home. He forced her to divorce and then went to town to find a widow. After Zhang Zhao came out, my elder sister-in-law latched onto him. Then, Liu Qianqian, who couldn't find a decent job and was raising a child, also showed up, with 3 adults and 1 child. Life became incredibly chaotic. Zhang Zhao has a criminal record and can't find a decent job, so he works day and night delivering food. Liu Qianqian claims she needs to take care of the children and doesn't want to work outside, preferring to be a housewife. However, she can't stand her sister-in-law who also doesn't work and always wants to kick her out. The 2 women kept arguing, not even realizing that the child had developed autism. It wasn't until the little child became vacant-eyed and screamed whenever someone touched them that they discovered the problem. As a result, a huge amount of money was spent on treatment, which drove Zhang Zhao to collapse, and he simply disappeared without a trace. After hearing this, I just smiled, feeling neither sorrow nor joy, because none of this has anything to do with me anymore. Now I have a loving husband, an adorable son, and close friends who genuinely care for me. They are my everything, and others no longer matter.